Hello, one and all. This is Peter Palmiotti of Human Art Studios, and this is Making Comics and Art, episode 117. So, just saw a comment on Twitter from one of my followers, Matt, who says, "I'm so close to 1,000. I am at 910, so 90 away."
For his backing on his campaign?
What's that?
For his backing on his campaign? Is that what he's referring to?
No. He's talking about my subscriber count on my YouTube.
Oh, yes. Okay.
I'm at 910 subscribers.
Ooh.
And 90 subscribers can take, it could take a year. It could take 2 months. Who knows? But I am closer than I ever been. So that's, I'm happy about that for sure.
Well, that's
but I want to mention, my brother has a campaign that's live as of this morning. Last I looked, it's past 75% funded. He is actually all the Palmiottis that we know and love are live on YouTube right now. He happens to be on Billy Tucci's show.
Oh, really?
So yeah, people can go watch that after this show. But
I know. I know what show you're referring to.
Yeah. Billy's an old friend, and
nice.
So yeah, Jimmy just launched. It's a book by him and Scott Hampton. He's a fine artist. There's a Bill Sienkiewicz alternate cover. He's gotten press and all a bunch of stuff so far. It's a good looking book. I pledged. I don't get no discounts from my brother. Well, actually I do a lot of times, but
that's funny. You're like, I don't get a discount. What's that?
Oh, he gives me plenty of free stuff, but yeah, I ordered a copy. It's a hardcover edition kind of thing. It'll be a fine book called Rage. I mean, it's somewhat based in reality a little bit. Go to his campaign. You could look it up and check it out.
Is it on Indiegogo or Kickstarter?
It's on Kickstarter. He's Kickstarter. Yeah. He's done, I don't know if this is 15 or something like that. He's done a whole bunch.
So Rick Saylor says hello. Itchy5 says what is
we got some peoples.
Yes, we've got peoples watching, Peter. Okay.
Yes.
Called Rage and
welcome one and all. Yes, it's called Rage and it's on Kickstarter, and go check it out later after the show.
Oh no. You saw us after the show.
And this is Ictus is how he pronounces it. So his unique spelling. But what is up, Total Excellence? And I actually spoke with Ictus earlier. He's going to be coloring one of the pinups for my book. This is my book, Retro, I'm working on, and he's going to be coloring one of the pinups. Yeah, so he was on last night, and we had a crowd.
Tell me about your book again.
All right, I already see my internet is acting up crap, but hopefully you hear me. I'll probably be just delayed and whatnot. Okay. So Retro is a metahuman. They consider him the first metahuman of this world, and he's stronger than the average person, faster than the average person. He heals quicker. He's the master of parkour, and he is the protector of the 5 boroughs. He's a New York-based hero, and here he is on this page. He's out shopping and talking with the public.
Okay.
Because that's what heroes do. And I'm just super excited to get this first issue out. I mean, obviously, there's a lot more to him. He's essentially a superhero, and I'm going to be world building as I go, and introducing the audience to a bunch of characters. There's enough going on in the first issue to get a taste of it all, and I'll be building on it issue by issue. It'll be an ongoing series. It'll be the first book out through my comic book publishing company, which is called Has Comics Dude. And,
nice. So is this a character that you came up with a long time ago and always wanted to do, or is this a new concept?
This is, it is a character I created in my teens. And I've been sort of thinking about throughout the years, and just built on my initial idea, and have created essentially a bunch of stories. I mean, I want this to be an ongoing series, and I have many storylines in mind to do. And there'll be a 0 issue, which will be the origin of his name, that I'll work on, after I get this issue out. And I got a bunch of other books I'm working on too. But then I'll be getting to sort of his origin down the line in the series. So it's not like one of those issues you pick up and his origins in the first issue. It will take me some time to get to it.
Well, yeah, and I think that's good, because I don't read a lot of comic books, but I have been, just in the last couple months getting into this world. I've been reading some again, and some of them give way too much information. They give way too much information during their campaigns, and I'm like, shush, stop talking about it. I don't want to know that much. Yeah. I just need to know enough. I just want to know enough to want to buy the comic book, and that's about it. And I think that, I get why they do it, because they're trying to get people to back it. But sometimes I'm like, spoiler alert, shush up. Like, for real.
Yeah. I mean, I am pretty much, like, I'm going page by page working on my book here on my YouTube channel, and you can pretty much see every page if you look at past videos and stuff. But exactly. I won't be doing this for future issues. I'll be doing other stuff.
I was going to say, there would be pages you probably wouldn't want to do here on, like, live.
Oh yeah. I'll just be showing much more limited art in the future. This is just because I did a campaign a couple of years ago for initial funding, and it was only a 5-day campaign, and it was like 80 pledgers. I'm going to get the issue finished and printed and into their hands first. Then I'm going to do a full-fledged campaign on Indiegogo.
That's awesome. Yeah. Well, I was thinking that if you did want to go live and with some of those pages, you can just do those in a private basis for some of your Patreons.
I could, yes.
Where that feed was only privy to those people.
This is true. Yes. Yeah. I drop stuff occasionally in my Patreon. I'm trying to do it more and more. I'm juggling a lot of projects, and it's hard to keep up with everything. But I can relate to that. Yeah, the patrons I have there are essentially just supporting me in general. They're not expecting anything.
That's good.
If I get more and more patrons, I'll do more and more exclusive stuff. I've done videos and dropped them there, and nobody's watched them. I know for sure.
Yeah,
it's like they're just happy to support me.
Yeah, I as you know, I started 2 webtoons, one for my comedy and one for my haiku series, and I have a total of 12 subscribers. And I feel
Yeah.
like a rock star. Like I feel like, ooh, I got 12 subscribers. Like I wake up and my head goes, okay, what am I going to do for my subscribers today? So I don't even want to think about what my head would be like if I had more than 12. Like I'm sitting here with my 12 feeling like I'm like this. I gotta do this. I gotta produce today. I'm gonna need to post a haiku today. I gotta put something in there. And I only, with my little, it's actually, I have 2 haiku people. I have 2 haiku subscribers, and I have 9. I had 10 on my comedy, but I lost a subscriber to my comedy. Something I said probably. It wouldn't shock me. I'm not politically incorrect, or at least I don't think I am, but I am also, I don't mince words, but although it'll, sooner or later though, Peter, honestly, if I were to actually put my real stand-up comedy unfiltered on Webtoons, I'd be banned in a day. Because
Right.
my comedy is pretty R-rated. Yeah.
Well, they have a mature setting, right? I mean, is it?
Yeah, you can't even use the F word on there. It's a community. It's an all ages community with all these. Yeah, so they're picky about it. I mean, I actually, so I had one of mine. The joke itself uses the F word, but I did not use the F word in the Webtoons. I actually just used the word, I'd put the letter F and some asterisks behind it. So you knew what the word is. You know the word in the joke is the F word. It got removed because of that.
Wow.
And get this, here's what's really freaking crazy. What's absolutely bonkers is that gets removed, but yet I did a search. So I go to Webtoons and I go to the little search bar and I search the F word. There's actual series. There's dozens of series on Webtoons where the title of the actual series is the F word, unfiltered. But yet my webtoon with the F, asterisk gets removed. What the hell is that?
Yeah.
I
That
don't
doesn't
know
make sense.
That doesn't make any sense. So I renamed it and I reposted it, and it's still there. It's fine now. Like it hasn't been removed yet. And I honestly, that probably means someone reported it.
Yeah, maybe, like that seems to be usually the case, like, somebody ultra sensitive or whatever. That's been done. Yeah. But I would have put Frankfurter. What the Frankfurter?
Yeah, that I love that suggestion, Peter, because I'm going to, that's a great idea actually, to start using, because that would actually make it funny, add to the fun, or add to the comedy is adding to the hysterical nonsense of having to basically tell a joke like as if I'm talking to a kid. Like I'm talking, like these are, what's really, it's just funny to me because I can post a joke unfiltered on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all of my pages. Not a single one will bat a fucking eye. Excuse me for cussing. None of them will bat an eye. But yet you go over to an actual app platform that's supposedly for comics. Mm-hmm. You can't even use the F word. I'm like, whatever, man. You guys are anyway. But I only complained about it for like a hot minute, because I like challenges and I like having to put myself in a position of having to do something new, and have it just honestly, and to a large degree, a comedy that uses a lot of profanity is lazy comedy to me. Right. I've always felt that way, and so it kind of put me in my place, and I said, it basically was like, okay, you're just gonna have to go back, because when I first started doing stand-up in 2006, I was doing it for about 6 months before I cussed on stage, because I had it in my head that I wanted to be this purist who didn't rely on sex jokes and profanity to get the laugh. because a lot of comics do. Their material itself is not very funny, and the only reason it is because of their use of graphics or their use of the F word or whatever. And that worked. That was fine. And so I know I can do clean comedy, and I know it. I can do it and have it work because I've done it.
Right.
I did stage stand-up comedy for about 2.5 years.
Nice.
And the only reason I stopped was because my kids were pretty young, and I needed to be home more and not at a friggin' comedy club till wee hours of the night. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. But I never stopped writing. I've been writing it ever since. It's just, and of course, it's just one of many things that I do. One of many.
Well, that's why you're here, to talk about the many things.
I know. I love when someone, like, they start, like, it's funny because I've been kind of I'm super new to this whole world of comic books for sure. And the only reason I even came into this world, I literally felt like I was born. I was born into this world because I started following Christy Shen because she was on my Spotlight show. She was one of my guest artists, and I started following her, and following her led to following Joshua Pantalleresco, who does the Just Joshing podcast. And then, and it went from there. And then I found Pops, and then I found Rich Parada, and Mike Jimmy, all these comics. And then of course, the list goes on and on. JD Calderon. I mean, I follow all these people. And well, even like you, like we were in a chat together one day, and then boom, now I know Peter. This is how it happened.
Yeah, totally.
But inevitably comes the conversation when I'm getting to know someone where they realize that they're like, wait, what do you do? And I'm like, well, can we just say all? Can we, I'm kind of like, I'm like an addict whose drug of choice is more.
Right.
I'm like, yes, I would like more with that, please. So yeah, I was given a camera at 9 years old. It's funny that I knew I was coming on your show, but I wrote this bio for this campaign draft that I'm putting together just to be on, I started putting together the draft for the campaign for the haiku book because I am such a writer, the author writer in me. I can't just throw something together. So I've already started writing the draft, and I'm in the bio part. And I'm like, oh my God, I hate talking about myself. And then I'm like trying to write this bio. But so yeah, when I really think about the first creative endeavor I ever had, it would be photography, because my grandpa, the year after my mom left, she took off when I was 9. My grandpa gave me a camera. It was one of my Christmas gifts. And oh my God, I fell in love with that thing the minute he handed it to me. And he made sure I never ran out of film, and he would help me, like, take me down to and this is, Peter, I'm so old. It was back in the day. Like, this camera had those removable, like, lens light bulb things. Like, it didn't even have an internal bulb. Like, the bulb was the snap-on external kind.
Yeah.
And there was, like, you'd buy those in like a pack where there was like 3 or 4 bulbs. And so when you
use it once and then you burn it out and you pop it out and
exactly.
put another one in. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. There's no repeating flash here. And it's so funny when I think about what we can do with cameras now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that was my first one. And then I started writing poetry in biology class, 10th grade biology class. It was so cool. On one of my Spotlight show, I had Kate Krasinski on, and she's a painter. And there's a part of my show where I allow my guests, I take them off the spotlight, and I allow them to ask me a question, an unfiltered, uncensored question, and I have to answer it. And it's funny too, because you tell people that, and you would think they'd ask you something ratchet, But nobody's brave enough to. They usually ask pretty benign questions. But she asked me, she goes, "So when do you remember the first poem you ever wrote?" Because I've been writing poetry, and I can't tell you what it was about or what the poem was called. I do know that it was I lied. I do know what it was about. It was about a guy named Mason. And I can tell you that I was in biology class and I was in 10th grade, but that's as far as I got. Like, I couldn't tell you what the poem said, but I do know it was about him and it was in biology class because that's when I started writing poetry.
Right.
And I filled up notebooks of it. And so I have probably lost more notebooks of poetry than I have actually produced or published so far. Throughout the course of my life, moving, I was a foster kid, all kinds of things, like notebooks and notebooks and notebooks of poetry that are like long gone compared to what I've actually got like physically with me.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, so then at some point, I think I was maybe like 18, 19. It was right out of high school when I came to California. I came to California at 19 years old. I started sketching, and it was just one of those things. It was just with pencils, just pencils. It was nothing fancy. I was just me and a pencil with a little sketchbook, and I started filling up sketchbooks, similar to the way I was filling up, poetry books. And I honestly couldn't have told you if I was any good at it or not. And I honestly didn't care because for me, it was more of an outlet. It was a trauma response outlet. Art for me, it was very trauma response.
Right.
And so I meet this guy. He was one of my coworkers at my very first job. And I didn't go study. I didn't go to college. I didn't go anywhere where they taught me art stuff. I don't know what those things are, but 24 Eyes has a bunch of, is that a king or queen? I can't tell. I can't tell what that is. So but I meet this guy. He was one of my coworkers, and he studied in
Looks like
some
owls.
art
Yeah, it's
school.
owls.
Owls. Oh, I love owl, but it's so I love
You're
owls.
welcome.
Actually, I do. Well, that painter I mentioned, Kate Krasinski, if I could afford it, I already know. Like, she has 2 paintings on her wall that are for sale, and she would, if I like suddenly came into money tomorrow, one of the ones I'd get is one of her paintings is a woman that is a full nude, beautiful, beautiful woman, but the head of the woman is an owl,
Cool.
and I just love it. The painting is just gorgeous. So this guy who had studied professionally and stuff comes across this sketch of mine that I did, and I showed it to him. And he was like he was really legitimately the first person I can remember showing my art to, because I wouldn't show it to people. It was like a diary. It was like a diary to me. And he was the first person that ever, how do I put it, critiqued me and told me that I was any good at it. Like, it was even good. Like, I wouldn't have known otherwise. I would have been like, whatever. I don't know. I didn't want to show it to people to tell anybody or show anybody anyway. So it didn't really matter what people's opinions were. But that was cool. And man, but then I went through this phase of time where I didn't do any art at all. I was trying to remember. I went through my 20s, went through a bad marriage in my 20s, and then I met my kid's father, and I became a mom. And you're running after little ones. Who has time to sit down and do art? Like, I certainly didn't, and so I went a really long time without doing any kind of art. And then I think I want to say it was in 2006. It was the 5-year anniversary of 9/11. I went to New York on a pilgrimage.
Right.
I have a friend named Brad who at the time was living in Queens. I don't know if he lives in Queens still, but he definitely still lives in New York because we just talked about me going back again because I need to go back again. And so I go to New York, and while I'm there, my friend David, this other friend of mine, takes me to just some bookstore, some random bookstore, and I'm standing in line. I have no intention to buy any art related anything, and I couldn't tell you at the time. Peter, I'm standing there. I couldn't have told you the last time I had sketched anything. And I'm standing there and I look over and there's a sketchbook, just a little spiral sketchbook. I still have it. And so I buy it, and I buy a little, one of those little quick set, kind of small set things of charcoal pencils.
Right.
And I was there. I was in New York for like 4 days, and I filled up, like, not the whole thing, but I filled up about half of it with sketches and paint, just all kinds of sketches. And then what was really rad, my favorite part of this story, is so on 9/11, the actual celebration, the 5-year celebration of 9/11, my friend Brad was a, what do you call it? Choir. He belonged to a men's choir through Juilliard. He went to Juilliard. He was a student as well as teacher and stuff. So I go to Carnegie. I go to Carnegie Hall.
Mm-hmm.
Have you been there? You grew up there, right? Or were you from there?
I'm originally from Brooklyn. Was I ever in Carnegie? I imagine I was. I don't remember specific. I was probably younger when I went.
Okay. So he takes me to Carnegie Hall on 9/11 because his choir is performing Mozart's Requiem. And I didn't know at the time. I didn't even know what Mozart's Requiem is, but apparently it's a piece of Mozart's that is specifically set to be used for a funeral mass.
Right.
Which is why it's called a Requiem. And so the show was called Requiem for 9/11. I go to Carnegie Hall. I'm sitting on the second floor of Carnegie Hall, and I'm sketching because I can't stop. I buy the sketchbook, and now I can't stop sketching. I couldn't, literally, the whole trip I was sketching, and I'm sitting in Carnegie Hall, and I'm listening to this choir sing this thing that I'd never heard of. But what Brad did not tell me about this show was that it was an audience participation thing.
Yeah.
And everybody in the audience were singers, musicians, and students, and people that all knew. They all knew why they were there, except me.
Except you.
And I don't. And have you ever been to a Catholic mass?
Yeah.
Okay, so you know how in a mass the priest will say something and then the whole entire congregation will repeat, like in mantra,
right.
Yeah. Well, that's what they do in a requiem. It's the same thing. So this choir, this men's choir up front that's being led by this orchestra, it already sounds beautiful. It's already incredibly gorgeous music and singing, right? But then when it gets to the part where it's like in mass where the congregation is returning or replying or whatever, this entire Carnegie Hall erupts in song, singing it back. All around me, like from head to toe, the people below me, the people next to me, the woman sitting next to me, everyone in this place erupts in song to sing back the replies as if we were in mass. And I lose my ever-loving mind, and I can't stop crying. It just, it's for me, it was probably the closest to being in heaven. If there's a heaven and there's a God and there's an actual, angelic choir somewhere, it was as close to that. I've never heard a single shred of music that has ever sounded more beautiful than that particular moment. So I sketched this, just random thing as I'm sitting there throughout the course of being there. It was a skyline of New York on fire because this was the 5-year anniversary of 9/11, mind you. Yeah. And that's what That's what comes out of me. And then so Brad and I, we leave Carnegie Hall because the show's over and the day's over and stuff, and we're leaving. And we go to get on the Staten Island ferry, and we
Oh,
can't get
really?
on. Yeah, I can't
That's
remember.
where I was living at the time, in
Yeah.
2006. Yeah.
Oh, well, we couldn't
Mhm.
get on the ferry right away because, get this, and I'm sure you won't be shocked, but we couldn't get on the ferry because someone had died, and we found a dead body on the ferry of a homeless person, and they had to dispose of the body before we could get on the ferry.
Right. Yeah. That unfortunately happens more than you think.
I bet, right? That's why I said
Yeah.
you're probably not going to be shocked by this. And so then, so Brad and I are sitting there and we're just waiting. And so we have to wait so long that we end up being a part of the loading party that includes Mayor Michael Bloomberg.
Right.
Because he apparently, we just so happened to be there long enough that he was leaving some speaking, because they, on 9/11, they do a bunch of like stuff around,
Yeah.
all these commemorative things and whatnot. So he was coming back from something. And so we end up getting loaded on to the ferry. Of course, not right along with him. We weren't allowed to like really go up to him at first. I don't even know the man. I couldn't tell you who he is. I couldn't tell you anything about his politics. I just know he's the mayor because these people are telling us to stay away from him.
Right.
And Brad is beside himself and like freaking like, stars. He's like, he doesn't care. He's such a queen, literally. And he won't mind me saying it. He's like such a queen. He couldn't wait to talk to the mayor. I want to talk to the mayor. I'm going to talk to the mayor. Like he had it in his head that we were talking to this mayor. Which, of course, we ended up doing. We ended up sitting with him and talking with him and having this conversation with him. And as we're sitting there, Brad, I was telling him about Carnegie Hall and how Brad didn't warn me. Brad didn't tell me that they were going to be singing and And I tell him how I sketched this picture in that day. And, I showed it to him. I showed it to the mayor, and I don't know why nobody suggested it, but all of a sudden I said, "Hey, would you sign it for me?"
Mm-hmm.
And he signed it. He signed my sketch, my painting. And again, I don't know Michael Bloomberg. He's nobody famous. He's just a mayor. But that particular sketch, I donated it to a charity to go into their auction, and it yielded a $600 payout. Nice. in the auction. Someone wanted it that bad, and I was like, "No way!" What?
Well, to be fair, he is more than just the mayor. I mean, his Bloomberg TV is,
Yeah, I don't know. You tell me. Like, you're gonna have to educate me. Like, I don't know.
Well, he's finance guy. He's, like you can wiki him and learn more facts than I'll get wrong, But Crimson Owl Comics was hey Ronnie.
Well, it was cool. It was so hi Crimson Owl. It was cool because I had, the girl of the charity place. She said that the person who got it, like actually won in the auction or whatever. They just couldn't. They said that part of why they wanted it was because of the story. Because when I sent it in, the girl asked me to write something that would, that they could share to go with it, when they were auctioning it. And I tell the story. And, when you tell that story, between the story and the fact that it was an autographed thing.
That's so, cool.
Yeah, it is. It's one of my highlights of my world in terms of the art stuff. That is what really kicked off my artistic painting and art life was that experience, because I come back and I never really stopped, which was good. Like after all of those years, even with being a mom, and I still had my kids, now I just did it with my kid. Like my kids I'd get all my stuff out and I would be doing what I was doing and they would do what they were doing. But we basically became this art family where we're doing art all the time. And I never really stopped doing it from that point forward. till now. And,
Right.
you know, I have transitioned to canvas painting because I used like well, I mean, like this is a piece of paper I'm painting on, and that as
Right.
I think I might have mentioned to you, it's because I'm illustrating my poetry book.
Yeah.
But up until this year, I hadn't done paper art like this in a long time because I had been working on canvas for a long. I had transitioned to canvas a few years back. So this is the first time I've kind of been back on paper. Paper art like this was what I did to start off with. It's almost like going back to my roots. It's kind of cool. My hands, and I don't know if you know this or if you can relate. I mean, I would imagine because you are doing what you're doing in real, like that's not a computer, clearly. I had to retrain my hands how to do this on paper as opposed to canvas. Does
Well,
that make
yeah.
sense?
Everything's a little bit different. I mean, it sounds strange to those that don't do such things, but
Right.
I know, like, um, there was a group of friends of mine. Like, I'm out in Kentucky, and I'm in a small town like south of Louisville. Um, and some friends of mine were out in Lexington, and they would do live art at a movie theater, and
Mm.
they would put up these giant boards up against the wall, and then put paper over the board and draw on the paper. And
Ooh.
it was strange to me because I do everything flat, and that was like
Yeah.
vertical and up, and it's like, man, my arm was killing me at the end of that night. It's like,
That well, I can picture this because I
yeah,
went that painter that I interviewed, she does live paintings at musical shows. Like she and her boyfriend will go to like a music concert, and
right.
they'll set up in the corner and do live painting during the show. And it's so and I don't know how people do that. I paint flat. I don't understand people. I've never once I have an easel. I have an easel, the kind that's meant to put your canvas on, right? And like paint to it.
Yeah.
I can't do it. I cannot do it. Even with the 16 by 20, or I think one of the ones I have right now, it's 2 feet by 3 feet, I think, is the size of the canvas. I still use my bed. I still lay it flat on my bed to paint on it. I can't
Yeah.
paint. I can't paint on it on the on a vertical thing. I just can't.
Well, it's like when I started in the comic industry, and I had a real art table, like what I'm working on now. This is a gigantic office desk, that I picked up at a. I mean, it was a sort of well, it was a Xerox place. It was everything a little bit. They sell
Mhm.
furniture and chairs and like office furniture and office supplies. I guess more office oriented, but
Yeah.
so I got this there, because I love working flat. I love, like, without the cats around, spreading everything out. um, and originally I worked probably the first couple of dozen years or so with a real art table, that was not at like, a lot of people do 45 degrees. I did it a little less than that. So halfway between that and flat.
Mhm.
But it's like, because as you're working on it, you want to sit up straight ish, and be able to see the image without it being warped. And if you're working flat, then
Mm.
that whatever's on the top of the page is actually smaller if you're looking at the whole page. Like, there's this
Oh.
perspective to it. So So that's why like they work with an angle and then it's all straight at you.
Huh. Well, that makes perfect sense in so many ways, because what I never ever thought of, because I never did live feeds like this before, but when
Right.
I went live for the first time on Mother's Day, and I've been going live ever since. And what I have learned now is I will put this in the camera like this. And I've had many a nights where I'm literally live, and what I'm seeing on the monitor
Right.
decides what I do next, or how I color what I do next. I literally, what you just said about perspective, I can appreciate why the angle would make sense for people, because I never ever took that into account before.
Right.
Like, with the exception of my canvas paintings. And so when I first started transitioning and using canvas, I would just paint them and paint them and be done. It was like I don't know, I get obsessive, and I would just start one, finish one. But then I got to a point where, and I can't remember, it was probably this one piece I did. She was so big. She was too big to even really hang on a wall. She sold earlier this year, but it took me so long to paint her because of how big she was. But what I learned from that experience was every time I'd come back to her after pausing, it made me better at the whole process, giving myself a break, especially on the big canvas pieces. So now I have this ritual where I will finish it to a certain point and I make myself stop. And I have two right now on my wall that are not finished canvas paintings, because they're waiting. This is how I look at it. Those paintings are waiting. I'm waiting for them. Excuse me. I'm waiting for them to tell me they're ready for me to work on them again.
Right.
And I've learned, like, seeing them on the wall the way that they would be intended to, for someone else. It has given me so many ideas and perspective in terms of what to do on the painting next, or how to do what I'm going to do, just by having it hanging on the wall for a week or two. or a month if you one of them's been there for a long time.
It's a popular thing. I mean, especially with painters. But I was just talking. There's a thing called Discord, and I tend to have some hangouts with other creators, and a lot of us are typically comic book people. And somebody was saying, like, almost asking us, like, do you ever finish something in a day? And it's like I tend not to. I mean, I want to a lot of times, but I tend not to, because I want it. I want it to breathe. I want it. It's like usually, like, I get in pages and I want to look at them for a while before even touching them. I want to soak up what the artist put down before I interpret how to attack it with my ink. But yeah, never like finish a piece in a day, because you can learn new things by sort of mulling over it with your brain.
Yep.
And
it's really rare now. I've been able to do maybe a few of these, like, paper ones that I've done for my book, where I have gone start to finish in, without pausing or whatever. But most of them, no. I get it to a certain point and then I pause. Because, oh man, I used to get to a point with stuff way back in the day where I'd either ruin it, because I'd force myself, and I would be like, but I've luckily, one of the nice things about doing it, as long as I've been doing what I've been doing, is I know when I'm tired, I know when I'm getting sloppy, and I'm usually really good about stopping. Like, I'll be like, okay, I gotta stop. Like, I gotta put this away.
So you do a lot of your own work for yourself, like, in the sense that you're not necessarily working off of somebody else's deadline, correct?
Yeah, I haven't done anything
Any?
collaborative. No.
Okay.
I know I'm not unique, and I know I'm not the only one, but I'm a weirdo, and I don't trust people. I don't trust people, and so I can't fathom working with other people, and I can't fathom working to someone else's deadline, or my deadline and someone else not meeting it, because that would make me crazy. I'd be like, I was like, yeah, no. Like almost everything I've done, or yeah, I'm the only thing I do know is that this one in particular that I'm working on, it's the first. It's not my first poetry collection, but it's the first one that has story poems in it that are like more. Wouldn't call it epic poetry, but basically the best description is like it's told. Some of the poems are told in a narrative, and they tell a story.
Right.
And so I do know this is going to be a book that I will get someone to edit when the time comes to actually really edit the writing part, the writing of the words and the actual grammar and all that jazz. I will have someone help with that. I've never had anyone edit any of my stuff before. But then it's also been pretty much just simple, basic poetry, free form, without much to it. This is not the same. It's quite a little different. So I'll probably want another. I probably will want another pair of eyes on it.
You want it to make sense. I mean, if you're telling a story, no matter how you're doing it, it should,
Yeah. But yeah, otherwise, I mostly have just kind of worked on my own. I'm kind of a loner anyway, and I'm not all that I'm not a big in person people. The surefire way to get me to not go somewhere is to tell me there will be a lot of people. If you tell me there's going to be a lot of people, I am out. I'm out. No, nothing.
And you went to New York?
And I what?
And you went to New York?
Oh yeah. Well, as soon as I tell you, well, Peter, I'm going to tell you. As soon as I say something like that, I'm going to contradict myself because I'm also the stand-up comic.
Right.
Who I chose to do stand-up on a Thursday. I can't remember. I don't remember the exact day, but a day of the calendar. But I know it was a Thursday. I was on the phone with one of my friends, and she was showing off about how she won this contest, and she was going to get to DJ on the radio. And this was way back in 2006. I was still pretty young back then. And so I'm listening to her gush about her little thing. And the competitor in me goes, oh, well, I'm going to do stand-up comedy. I had never thought of it. I had never planned it. I hadn't written a joke. But I say this on the phone. And I'm like, I hang up with her and I look at the phone and I'm sitting there and I'm going, fuck, now I got to go find somewhere to do this because I got to follow through. I can't leave something like that out there like a cliffhanger and then not follow it up. I mean, So I get on the internet, and sure enough, there was a place called Comedy Co-op in Sorrento Mesa that had 6-minute open mic sets on Thursday nights. So I literally came up with the idea at lunch, left work around 5, got to the comedy club about 6:30 because you start putting your name in the hat around 6:30 to 7 or something like that, and open mic started at 7, I think. And I had 6 minutes of comedy written and ready and performed it that night.
How'd it go?
And it was like I had been doing it for years. Now, I mean, was I great or perfect? No. The timing took some time. I had to learn some of the timing. I had to get some of the timing down. But stage fright or the guts to get on a stage, that I did not have to worry about that. It's the weirdest thing ever to be as weird as I am about showing my art and poetry to people, because I was like, no, you can't see that. But stand-up comedy didn't scare me at all, because it's because there's no vulnerability required to do stand-up. It's a different, it comes from a different place creatively. My my poetry, my art, it comes from a place that's way personal. It's like way, way, way personal. I mean, stand-up comedy is personal too, but it's me making fun of it. It's like me making fun of it in a way that's safe, if that makes sense. This makes me feel fun. Showing my art and talking about some of the poems, especially what the content of them is about or what experience it might be about. It's so personal. So,
well, you know, I was very shy growing up, and I drew, but like I put everything in like in a drawer and kept it to myself. And I remember Jimmy and my other brother Anthony went into my room and opened the drawer, and Jimmy's like, "Hey, Anthony, look, this is Peter's drawings." You know, it's like,
oh,
thanks, Jimmy.
did you feel like crazy violated? How did that make you feel?
Yeah. I mean, you know, but at the same time, it's like I should not, you know, I shouldn't be keeping it in a drawer. It's like I don't know. It's just what I was doing. I didn't really think about it, you know. But yeah.
Right? Well, and this is why I say that I'm not unique, because you just told my story. Because back in, I think it was maybe 2015, I think it was, I was dating a guy. He was a surfer. But he was also an artist. He actually did artwork on surfboards, his own and other people's. He would do custom art on surfboards. Right. And so he was, you know, he was just hanging out one night, like he normally did, and he was trying to come up with a design for this board because he was sponsored by a few places, and this one place was giving him a new board. And of course, a new board to him, the artist, means new art. Right. So he's sitting there designing the art, and I'm just, you know, like, okay, well, I'll sketch too. And I hadn't shown him anything. Like since we had been dating, I don't know, maybe a good 6 months or so. And I sketched this thing of him while he's doing his thing. He doesn't have a clue what I'm doing, right? He just he was kind of like into himself too. So he really wasn't paying attention. He really was not paying attention to what I was doing until I showed him what I had been doing. And it was a painting. It ended up being a painting. It was a sketch at the time, but I show him this sketch. And he, oh my God, Peter, he was the mellowest, lowest key guy. Like he was the perfect example of the blonde, blue-eyed surfer, like, what up, dude? Like the total Fast Time at Richmond High, Sean Penn guy. Like that was him. That was totally him. Until he realized, he goes, and he raised his voice and he used profanity and he said, "What the F, and how do I not know that you're this talented? How do I not know this?" And I said, "What do you mean?" I'm like, and I'm like, "I have all kinds of pieces." And he goes, "You have more?" And I kid you not, I go and I pull out all this artwork, and he like gives me this huge lecture and like yells at me. He was not a yeller ever. And he was like the first and only 2 times I ever heard that man raise his voice, really. So yeah, so then that it's cool because that piece, that was him. It was an abstract realistic piece. You couldn't really tell it was him. You'd have to know it was him to know it was him. Right. It was one of the first 4 pieces of mine that sold. Someone gave me $100 for it.
Cool.
Just a little, you know, painting on a piece of sketch paper. Actually, 2 of the first 4 paintings I ever did were of him. The first painting anyone ever gave me money for was him. It was a painting called Namaste, and it was a painting of his hands in prayer, because and I can't believe he could do this, but there's actual video footage that proves he could. But he was a surfer, as I said, and he was so in touch with God and Mother Earth that when he would surf, the very first wave he would catch of a set, he would always lay flat on his back on the board, and he would put his hands up in prayer. And and say a prayer. And there's actual video footage with his GoPro of him doing this on YouTube. It's crazy. It's absolutely bonkers to me that he could. But he had been surfing since he was 4, so he was just that good. So anyway, I took a snapshot picture of him from one of his videos, and I did a painting of his hands, and it was the first thing someone bought. They wanted those hands. I was like, all right. She was a spiritual Christian woman, so it's no shock. You know, it's like I'm not. I would definitely not call myself religious. I have a relationship with God, but it's funny when you put sex with God to some of the work that I have done. It'll sell. Sex and God sells, by the way. If anyone's listening, to some degree, sex and God sells. Sex definitely sells.
Yeah, sex always sells.
Sex always.
Well, yeah, you know, it's like with me, it's, you know, I have 3 older brothers. Jimmy's the next one up, then I have 2 older brothers. You know,
are you the baby? Wait, are you the baby or middle?
I'm the baby.
Aww, that's so cute.
And you know, I guess you know, I knew I had something pretty early on, but it's like I think, you know, all my brothers were artistically inclined to a certain degree. We all had ability. I had to work harder at mine, which is maybe where I was tooling away and keeping it in a drawer for a while. But you know, like Jimmy had a natural ability, and I'm shocked that he never really, like, he's in comics, yes, he was inking for years, yes, and he draws, yes, but he used to do these stream of consciousness. Like he would take a piece of paper, right?
Yeah.
And fill it from the very top, inch by inch, all the way to the very bottom, just like stuff like you could follow thoughts and stories in it. And he never did that professionally, and I was like, and I don't think he's ever kept any of that either. So it's like, it was the coolest stuff, you know.
That sounds like I mean, it's rare. Not rare actually. I have a lot of the older pieces that I did, and even actually some of the newer ones where I had no idea what I was going to do. You know, I just literally, it's not the same thing, but I have sat down a few times where the only thing I've got in front of me is maybe a pen, a pencil, or whatever, but a blank piece of paper or a blank canvas. And I wait. And I stare at the paper and I wait. And sure enough, sooner or later, something comes out of the paper, and, you know, something comes to mind or something gets conceived. And then I have a lot of art pieces that are like that, or from that perspective. They're not planned things. So I can relate to what you're describing to a certain degree. Like he was probably going into a space where he's channeling the art from something somewhere inside, deep down. I've had times where I'm literally in the midst of, I almost feel, have you ever seen the movie The Hand? I know it's an old movie.
That's what a cartoon is, right?
No, it was a scary movie. It was about this hand that wasn't connected to a body, and it was killing people or something. It was like a horror flick called The Hand.
Right, but it wasn't like in the movie. It wasn't a cartoonist's hand or something, like an artist's hand.
I thought it was a like a prosthetic type of thing. It's been forever. It's way old. It's like black and white.
I might, like, I think I know what you're talking about. I'm not sure if I actually seen it, you know, but I do know of it, and maybe I'm confusing with another film too.
That's okay. Well, I just sometimes I will be in the midst of doing something. It's usually when I'm sketching with pencil, as opposed. I mean, although when I've been painting and had stuff happen, but I'll be like, all of a sudden I'll be like, I'll sketch something or I'll see something on the page, and I kid you not, I feel like my hands do their thing without me even really being conscious of it. Is the
Right.
way.
Right.
It doesn't happen a lot, but it definitely has happened enough to make me, kind of go, well, yeah, okay. that that was definitely, it was supposed to happen, or it was meant to be, but for whatever reason, yeah, it's just.
Have you ever read or listened to the audiobook of there's the famous book The Art of War?
Sounds
There's a
familiar. I don't think I
there's a
have.
there's an artist book called The War of Art,
Ooh.
and it's about like the internal goings on in your brain in the war to do your craft. And
Mm.
in the case of the writer, it's about his writing.
Yeah.
And it's super interesting, and you should get a copy of the audiobook because
Well, it
I'm
sounds
sure
like right
you'd
up my
love it.
alley.
Yeah, you'd love it.
I know. I definitely have an artist brain that has literally a mind of its own that's totally separate from the rest of my life in so many ways. And I know, like, I sometimes feel like I'm feeding the beast when it comes to
Right.
my art or my creative side, because I can't do the same thing over and over again. And please don't take this the wrong way, but one of the things that just blows my mind, and I'm in awe of you comic book guys, is there's no part of me that has any interest in doing the same character over and over. It doesn't. It
Yeah.
literally, for me in my head, it makes my brain, that whatever that artist thing in there is, that beast that is the creator in my head, it makes it mad to even think of doing something like that. Like, what?
No,
Yeah.
I mean I accept that because I do have it's sort of like I work well within a um, factory kind of mentality where, yeah, I wake
I,
up and I'm pretty much doing the same thing over and over again,
I
but
truly
not,
believe
but
that.
am, yeah.
Sorry. I was going to say, I think honestly, it's probably why there's more men in comic books than women, because I think that men, and this is just my own opinion, you guys are so methodical. You're so mathematically inclined. It reminds me of mathematics, and how, to some of us it's boring, but to you guys there's something in it that's captures you, similar to like gaming. Um, if that makes any sense. And I think
Yeah.
I think it has to do with the male brain. And I'm not saying women can't do comics or sequential comics, and because I've seen them, they do it all the time. There's a few people out there I know that do the same characters over and over. I can't. I've tried. I tried. Like, even my own comic tune that I'm doing, this Amazon Beauty one. Oh my God, Peter! I was trying to do my
Right.
own likeness. I was trying to do my own likeness for my own sequential comic book comedy thing, and I was losing my mind over it. I'm like, I don't want to do me. I don't want to do me sequentially. I don't want to. I don't want to draw me every day. Fuck that. Excuse my French, but
Right.
no.
Yeah.
It's, yeah. So I have so much respect for you guys that do what you do, because I just couldn't do it. I wouldn't be able to do it. I've tried.
Yeah, I mean, it's like because there's so many outlets for creativity, there's so many different, uh, not thinking
Well,
of the
there's
word, but
admittedly, I also know that to a large degree, it's my own laziness. The fact that, do I think that I could get good enough artistically to do the same thing over and over, to where, like, it's the same person? I probably could. I just don't think I want to. I don't think I want to take the time to learn how to make my face fit, 15 different expressions. If that, like, and like your character, you've got to like do the same character, like, let's say in a different setting or a different lighting, or you've got to have the same features and the same all that stuff. To me,
yeah,
that's why you guys, I know your craft is just insanely good. It's just ingenious. that you guys can do
Yeah.
that.
Well,
I look at that and I'm like, yeah, no, I'm good. I'll pass.
I haven't proven myself with that skill yet because, I've been inking so many people, and really when it comes down to it, as long as I'm doing close to what the pencil had put down, I'm good.
Yeah.
Like so now, like my friend penciled the first issue, but I'll be doing issue 2 on, and that will be really my training ground to see if I can do that. I'm pretty sure I can. It's going to take me a couple of issues to fine tune sort of my approach and style to it, but
yeah.
I've already had ideas. I've been allowing sort of like that creative aspect of your brain to just keep working, even when I'm working or sleeping or whatever I'm doing. Like I'm
Oh
always
yeah.
thinking about it in the back of my brain.
Yep. I totally, even if I'm not, even though I like to believe that when I sit down and actually do something that it's super original, the reality is that I do have some kind of a concept usually before I start something. I mean, it may be pretty loose and it may not have a lot of rules or constrictions and whatevers, but I usually have a general idea. Like this, for example, what's really cool about this particular book that I'm doing, illustrating the poetry book, is I don't even have to really think about the art in a certain degree, because I'm looking at the poem, I'm reading my poem to myself, and I'm going, okay, what fits this? Like this particular piece here, this woman coming out of a cage. She's part bird, she's part bird, and she's part, what's that called? The cocoon thing of, what is a butterfly?
Butterfly.
No, but they go, what did they start off as before they're in the cocoon? What is that called?
It's a metamorphosis. I forget.
Caterpillar? The caterpillar.
Caterpillar.
Yeah, so she's kind of like in this stage of metamorphosis, is what she is what she's in the artwork. And the poem itself is about being free. It's about not having the restraints of titles or definitions or other people's opinions of who you are as a person, is what the poem's about, which is why this is the artwork that came out of me. Being uncaged, the broken chain, the woman gaining wings, that kind of stuff. All of that visual, this symbolism. Illustrating my poetry was suggested to me this year for the first time. Someone had said it to me. It was actually Pops Van Zandt who said it to me. He's the one that inspired the haiku book. And now that I've been doing it, I'm like, holy crap, why wasn't I doing this the whole time? Because I mean, it makes perfect sense to illustrate poetry. Of all the things to illustrate, not just stories and the way you guys tell stories with the comics and your visuals of the art along with the words. It's not the same, but it's the exact same concept. It's basically the exact same concept of telling a comic book story with pictures. And that's exactly that's why it took someone like Pops to come along to say it and articulate it in a way that made perfect sense. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know another artist out there that would have come up with that in the same way he did, or another comic book person. It took someone like Pops, who was an outside observer, kind of third party fan, as he calls it, although he's an artist himself. Don't let him tell you he's not, because he is. If you ever get a chance to talk with him when you're doing your thing and you're on his show, have him show you his art, because he has done some pieces. He is one of what's her name? What's the chick's name with no eyes? She's got like no eyes. They're like empty. Is it Death? She's a comic character. Is it Death, or what is
she? Has eyes.
What is this? I'm trying to think of what she's called. It's not Death. She has white eyes.
There's like heroes who their eyes like the pupils disappear when they use their powers and stuff. I'm trying to think of.
She's blonde. I have to look.
Well,
But he also did he also has an Electra that's really rad that he sketched. I thought it was pretty cool.
oh yeah.
So yeah.
That's a great character.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, like, like poetry isn't a favorite thing of mine, but I definitely have an appreciation for people who do it, and a great appreciation for wrapping a message within words. I mean, it's all about writing, and I'm totally into anything you do with words as well as pictures. I mean, that's comics.
I'm so addicted to words. I'm such a lyricist. Like one of my guests on my show was a songwriter, and we talked about this thing about the love of words and writing I've never really actually sat down to consciously choose to try to write a song per se, but there's a very fine line between poetry and songwriting. You have to know rhythm and melody to do the song thing, but most songs, ultimately, as she put it, she's like, you could pretty much if you really needed to, you could probably take a poem and turn it into a song, or take a song and turn it into a poem. It just depends on a couple of different factors. I don't think they're the same thing personally, but I usually go to music when someone tells me they don't like poetry. I usually go, yeah, well, if you like the words to any song, the words to any song out there have struck you and stayed with you. Trust me, you like poetry.
Yeah, I mean, I just like, it's not considered poetry. I don't, it's like
exactly. It's not. You're absolutely right. I agree that, like, I don't think it is, but I don't look at them the same. Only because I've tried to sit and actually choose to try to write a song, and I just don't think I can do it. I've tried, but I don't know rhythm at all. And like my friend Natalie, the woman that was on my show, she could articulate it way better than I can. But her and I agreed on that. The fact that a song has a definite, like when you write an actual song, there's definitely intention behind the words to rhythm that a poem doesn't necessarily have.
Not always. Yeah.
And that to me is why they're different. But then but then my ex-boyfriend, who was a rap artist, said, because I'm a spoken word poet, and I did spoken word poetry this year, and I produced my own album with my own music. And he says, Dori, spoken word poetry is the gateway drug to rapping.
It is.
That's what he said. Hi, Skull Diamond says, hi, folks.
Yeah.
And I was like, no. I'm like, I'm like, do I want to be a rap? Do I want to rap? No, I don't think so. But I understand what he meant.
Have you ever watched So I Married an Axe Murderer?
Sounds so familiar. I don't think I watched it.
It's Mike Myers.
Mike Myers, yeah. I've seen this.
Yeah. It's where he went up on stage and he starts spouting off, and it's it's spoken word, it's poetry, it's
right,
whatever,
slam poetry,
yeah. I love that shit. That's
I would definitely say
it's
slam
hilarious.
poetry.
Yeah,
slam poetry is definitely rap for sure. It's like, sorry. Okay, you go on.
Yeah, because it's like I've had friends who are like into rap, and I'm not necessarily. It's not like in the forefront of my brain ever. But if I'm hanging out with other friends that are into it, then my brain goes there. And I remember hanging out with them, and we just start thinking of words, and they'd say a couple of things, and I'd add to it. Then they say some stuff, and I'd add to it.
I've totally
and we were rapping.
Yep. before you know it, you basically, my comedian friends and I wrote, I have I have so many different projects. This one's an old one. I have a sitcom pilot that's written. It's like a 2-hour sitcom pilot. And it's written. And most of the script was done improv on the fly by me and a couple of other comics who used to get together on Saturday mornings. And I had rented this studio. What do you call it? It was a theater, like one of those tiny little off, community theater things.
Right.
And I just rented the venue, the space rental, for like an hour on Saturdays and for like a month. And we would go there, we'd set up the video camera. We would, like, I'd give them the general, because I wrote most of it ahead of time, just kind of in like an outline form. And I would give them the general idea of the scene. And these comics would just freaking go off and improv it. And a lot of it was written the way you just described. They would say something and they would bounce it off each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of these days, I will do something with that.
Make it into a comic.
I actually kind of did, because it was called the Amazon Beauty Company, and it was about this crazy woman who owned a company. And the only difference is the webtoons I have is real, like, meaning it's me. It's my comedy is all. It's actually called, technically, it's called The Amazon Beauty Does Dating.
Right.
Is the name of the series. I was going to do it in a calendar, but basically, have you ever seen or heard the porn called Debbie Does Dallas?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's a take on that, but it's the Amazon Beauty Does Dating.
Gotcha.
And there's a portion of it that's called the Amazon Beauty Does Love. So, like, some of the jokes and some of the stories are just ratchet crazy. Hi, Salazar Art Nation. Some of them are intentionally, so that's so cool that he showed up. Some are meant to really just be ratchet and crazy and absolutely just obnoxious, right? Like, that's the intent. And then the Amazon Beauty Does Love ones, now that is just vulnerable, real truth. And, and so it's like this, which kind of basically the whole point is that the name, that when I was given the name The Amazon Beauty, the guy that gave it to me, the reason he said he gave it to me was that I was the first perfect example of a really tough woman who, like, made you think you were that she was gonna kill you. He's like, I'm basically scared of you, but you're also sweet as pie, and you don't come off like you would kill me, but I think you're gonna kill me. And he goes, so he's the one that pinned the nickname The Amazon Beauty, because he found me to be the combination of the two. And I think that it was a metaphor he gave me for me, or about me, but I think it applies to almost every human out there, really, male or female. I think most of us have to be a combination of sweet, but I think most of us have to have some kind of survivor in us that can be brutal if we have to be.
Yeah.
I think
even the sweetest person out there has been through things.
Right? And if you don't know how to stand up for yourself, no matter how sweet you are, you've got to learn how to do some of that standing up for yourself kind of thing, because you'll just get walked all over if you're too sweet.
Yeah, you wouldn't survive.
Nope.
Because I grew up being a good kid,
Right?
But it's like I New York.
A good kid from New York.
New York.
I love it.
Our nation says, "Hey, Peter, I think Peter the Plant misses you too." He does this Tarocco Creative Cast with a friend of his, Anna.
Yes, he was telling me about this. I got to catch this.
And Anna does her streaming from a rainforest, apparently. Anyway, one of the plants that surrounds her, she named Peter the plant.
Aw.
And in the chat, I said goodbye to Peter the plant when everybody said goodbye.
That's it. No more Mr. Nice Guy for me. Oh, yeah, he mentioned that, and I got to make sure I catch it because I try, honestly. I may not go out a lot, and I don't do a lot of out socializing, and I don't go to shows. I don't, even before COVID, I didn't do that stuff. And so for me, live streams and live feeds and live shows like this have kind of become my socializing outlet. Like it's gotten me out of just being kind of here by myself. I've gotten to know people, gotten to make friends and have relationships with people in this way, in this regard. And so I'm looking forward to catching one of their shows.
Yeah.
You know? Because I've been on a lot of streams where someone was acting as moderator or acting as someone helping out the person doing the stream, but they really were just there. They weren't really doing anything. And along comes Salazar. Do you call him Frank?
Frank, yeah.
Yeah, along comes Frank, and he's actually doing what a moderator should be doing, which is promoting and cross promoting and supporting and answering questions. And I'm sorry, I just gave you my opinion? I usually try to leave my opinions to myself, but
yeah, that's fine. I don't care. I'm sure Frank appreciates it. You know,
I appreciated him. You know, being so
he's good about promoting himself and promoting others, and he shares out everybody whatever he's up to and talks about and gets people on. He has a few channels, so
it has been my experience. Now, I've only been streaming and doing shows for about a year. I started my first show last year, and then I started my Diva show earlier this year, and then I have my Spotlights show. It's been my experience that if you don't acknowledge the people in your chat, they're going to stop watching.
Right.
It's one thing if they're watching and they're not commenting, because obviously you're not going to know they're there. But if they comment and you know they're there, I don't know about you, but I've had people like they're going to leave. They're not going to stick around. And so when I'm doing my Spotlight show, I forewarn the guest. I said, I am going to throw the comments up on the screen when people give us comments, because I want them to know that we're acknowledging them and that we know that they're here.
Yeah. So Frank says we're having Javier Hernandez on next week.
Salazar. I like Dori. You need to have her on more often.
Yeah.
Aw.
He's not wrong.
I'm not going to disagree with that. I'm just saying.
But Javi, they used to call Javi Uncle Javi. He's a great guy, and there he goes. He's plugging your YouTube channel.
That's so rad. So get this, okay? I know I don't know how long we're gonna go. I really don't care. I'm good. But I was at 69 subscribers for like a really long time, and like to the point where
uncomfortably long.
Yeah, I'm like, well, 69 is great, but it's usually not something you do alone. So, oh, that's difficult. The stand-up comic that showed up to the live stream there, Peter. So I'm sitting there on 69. And I actually found myself not advocating my channel like I usually do, because I'm at 69. I'm like, I don't want to be at 70. I don't want to be at 70. I'm like in 69. I know, right? So then I decide, okay, no, I want to get to 100 so that I can have a vanity URL. That's my goal right now. And I kid you not, I put there was I'm not going to say names, but there was a page that we did this thing where it was like it was a post about sharing each other's links and people sharing their link and you sharing your link and people would go follow you and you would go follow them, that kind of thing. Right.
Right.
I go up to like 82 subscribers from 69. Right.
Okay.
And a day or two goes by and I was back down to 71. People are shifting, man. That's, to me, that's some shady, shitty shit. Don't
Yeah. I mean,
sub to get a sub and then go back and unsub. Like, that's the most, like, you know, I'm gonna get on my soapbox for a minute and say that has got to be like, unless you're fucking Brad Pitt, your head's way too big, man. Like, whoever those people are that think that unfriending or unsubbing someone like that just, to me, is just atrocious behavior.
yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, it's like I do it to support my friends. I sub to their thing, and like it's impossible for me at this point to watch all the channels I'm subscribed to.
Right.
That's not the point to it. It's
And you
it's
don't
like
have to set a reminder for all of them.
yeah.
Sorry.
But
Let me let you talk.
yeah, like the YouTube groups that are sub for sub, those are bullshit. Those are like like farms. It's like I don't want to be part of any of that because I don't want it's like it's a foreign country. First of all, it's not even people interested in what I'm doing more than likely.
That's a good point. Yep.
And so screw it. It's like I'll go to slow wait. I've been doing this too long. Like I haven't always been as consistent as I have been lately. So this is why I haven't passed 1,000. I could, if I was consistent from day one, I would have been, 30,000 at this point.
You just made a great point about the people who are actually interested in you, because when I don't bother, and I just kind of let it happen organically,
yeah,
I get a sub and then I keep that sub. Like, it's usually someone who subs because they really, really wanted to.
So. I like a sub with extra mayo.
Salazar says Javi's channel, sub to Dori. Yep. Yeah, we got Anna, her vanity URL finally. She had subs go up and down until she finally got her. Yep. Yeah. That's where I'm at. Like, I think I want to say I'm at 77 right this minute. Like, I was at 77 earlier when I looked. So, and it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah.
Because to be honest,
as long as it takes,
Yeah, well, as I told you earlier, my 12 subscribers on my webtoons makes me feel like a rock star. I'm a famous webtoons person, don't you know? I've got 12 subscribers, okay? there are 12 people out there who are getting my webtoon, okay? I'm just saying. That's pretty special to me.
And they treat you like a goddess that you are.
Well, yeah. Because I am. And it's funny, I am a legit goddess, because on top of everything else that we've already talked about, I'm also Diva Dori. I have the blessed divine providence gift to be a mentor to survivors of trauma and abuse. And I do that on the side. I don't take money for it. I have a show that I produce on a weekly basis. I'm in my 3rd season of it. And basically it's a channel and a group of community of people to advocate to anyone out there who's ever felt like a misfit, who's ever been mistreated, who's ever been abused, who's ever been assaulted, who's ever been left, abandoned, you name it. My Diva group is exactly for that. It's for those people. And that's Diva Dori started because I studied Tantra for a while with a Tantrika. And I did that in order to do just some general spiritual stuff. And of course, some sexual stuff. I wanted to learn Tantra. I go to study Tantra kid you not, I go study Tantra to spiritually justify my sex choices. I kid you not. That was the intent. And then I find out that their belief system or beliefs in Tantra is not a religion, it's a spiritual practice. But anyways, their spiritual beliefs when it comes to relationships and sex is a little stricter than even like Christianity. And I'm like, this is not what I'm here for. It was funny. It was kind of funny. And so I balked, and then I left it for a bit, and then I went back to it because the tantrika, she's a lady from here in San Diego. She mentors trauma survivors, and that was the part of it that I came away from. I mean, I went to it with all this other stuff in mind, all these other things I thought I wanted, but what I came away from the whole experience with was the tools I needed to heal the inner child that had the stuff done to me as a kid that no kid should ever have done. Right. And and then I get to be a survivor and pass it on to others. That's what I get to do today.
If anybody is listening to this now and don't know, you were on the Pimp Your Comic episode where I invited people on and you were talking there and we had other guests and it got pretty deep for a while. So if you're listening, curious, you can go watch that as well. You learn a lot more.
Well, and I do. I don't have a comic book per se, but I do have the Haiku series, which was done in the style of a comic book. And I got my author's copy today, and it's pretty cool. I was a little more impressed, even with the way it looked in print, than I mean, I have to admit, it's my work, yes, but I kind of wasn't thinking it would really translate in a way that I would like or would want or think that others would want to see. But I think, yeah.
I was going to ask, did you want to show that off at all, or did I get a sneak peek?
Oh yeah, so I have it out. So for anyone who's watching, I'll move this for a second. This is the book. This is the premiere. It's called, let me see if I can say this correctly, L'amour déshabillé. It's French for love undressed. And this particular one is called La Première Tome. It's volume 1. I was on there just listening to Dori talk about it. I didn't want to interrupt. You're so sweet. So basically what it is it's a illustrated haiku book, and there's 10 haikus, and each haiku has a full page of art that represents what the haiku is saying or conceiving, or whatever the meaning behind the haiku is represented by a single page of art. That's in part 1 of the book. And then part 2 of the book, this is the part, and I'll show this one because this one was what Pops had today when we went live. I opened this live today because this just came. But Pops Van Zant has the original page of this art. But basically this is where I took the haiku and I created artwork in a story panel page similar to a comic book that basically tells the story of the haiku, or depicts, illustrative wise, it depicts the haiku. And so this is the Haiku Series book that we're talking about. And it's so funny, like we're talking about the combination of being a sweet person, but also a person who, you may have to be ruthless from time to time. So this page is called, the name of the haiku is called Sweet Girl. And in the haiku itself says, "Sweet girl I am, yes. Don't underestimate me. Cut a bitch, I will." Mm-hmm. That's actually the haiku. And the artwork is a sweet girl is up here, but then there's this scary girl behind a pair of scissors. And then in the singular image one, it's a girl with a bloody knife on her lips. So this is basically the artwork that came from looking at my own haikus. The haikus were written. I wrote them last year during a haiku workshop that I did to learn how to write a haiku. And I did this haiku workshop. And so I had these haikus, and I was originally going to put them in this book that I'm doing right now called, so the painting I'm working on as we speak is for a illustrated poetry collection. I may do it as a book. I may do it as a graphic novel. I haven't decided, but I do know that every poem in it's going to have an illustration similar to what you're looking at on this right now.
I really like the colors you're using.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. I tend to, it's so funny. I was saying this just today. I'm not a pastel type of person. Like I've tried many times to stay in a palette of pastels when I'm painting, and I just I've never succeeded. I've just never succeeded. And so way originally, earlier, like a month or so ago, when I first started this, I was, the haikus were going to be in this book. They were actually going to just be kind of these fillers that I was going to put into this poetry collection, throughout the collection or whatever. And it was just some random discussion one day, when we were talking about it, and Pops said, he goes, that'd be really cool if you illustrated your poetry, like, and took the poetry and illustrated it. Because I have 2 children's books written that I may, depending on how comfortable I get with this whole serial publishing thing, they could very easily turn into children's comic books, because they're cute little stories. I used to tell my kids. The characters are unique. I've never really seen anything else out there that are like these characters in my children's books. So that's what brought up the conversation about me illustrating the poetry. Is I was telling them that Mike, who does Life on Quora, I was watching him sketch live. I was watching him sketch live one day, and I'm like, ooh, I want to illustrate my children's books. And I've been thinking about doing it for years. I've been thinking about illustrating those darn books. I mean, they're written. They're in this little box next to me. But I just never did it. I just hadn't got... I illustrated one of my children's books that I did, and it's a coloring book. And it's really, really basic. It's not even good. Like, the art is really kind of lazy art, but not even going to lie. It's lazy art, okay? I'm not even going to lie. So... anyway, that conversation led to a lot of conversation about illustrations, and then it got, someone just said the thing about illustrating my poems, and the next thing you know, my brain does that thing you were describing earlier, that artist brain, and I'm like, oh, so my first round was doing the single page art. I'm like, oh, I'll do a single piece of art. And so I took each haiku and I looked at the haiku and I did a piece of art, just a single page of art that represented the haiku. And I go, okay, I'm done. And I set it aside, Peter. And then I do that thing where I just kind of sat back, and I don't even know. I think I was at work, or I don't even remember where I was. And my brain fired, and I saw the panels of a comic page, and all of a sudden I'm like, ooh, I could do a set, not only have a set of the 10 pages that are singular paged art, but also a set of 10 pages that are story panels of each haiku. So there's 10. What makes a poem a haiku? Is it a certain number of lines of verses? Yes, it's 3 lines, 5, 7, 5. So the first line is 5 syllables, the second line is 7, and the third line is 5. That is the basic, super basic outline of a haiku. And it sounds super simple, and it is, honestly. Okay, it's simple now. Like, I can write a haiku on the fly now. Okay, but when I did the workshop last year, I only wrote 8. Okay, I didn't even finish the workshop. The workshop was it was like a work to your own pace kind of thing, and I think I have a page of like 100 and some odd prompts where you're supposed to write a haiku for each one. I wrote 8. Okay. I wrote 8. When I did the haiku series, when I was working on the artwork and I was putting this together, I said, 8, I don't like the number 8. The number 8 didn't suit a book, So I decided to write 2 more. So the book has 10 in it because 2 of them I wrote this year. I wrote specifically for the book to fill it up and to give it a nice even round number of 10. I wanted, and I thought 10 was a good number. So yeah, so each volume going forward is going to have 10 haikus. I'm going to try to do an art piece, a singular piece of art for each haiku, and a story page of art for each haiku. Oh, and each volume is going to have 2 editions. It's going to have a full color comic book type style like I have that I just showed you guys, but it's also going to have an exact replica, or not replica, an exact duplicate that's that's no color, that's black and white for coloring, with the type and style of paper that people can color with or color on. That I did and chose to do as an additional thing because I've had over the years since I did get into doing my art and showing it to people. It's probably one of the most consistent suggestions that I've had from people is they'll ask me, have you ever done a coloring book? Have you ever put out a coloring book? Because they'll see like the colors I'm using, right? Like you were talking about the use of these colors. They'll see something like this, or the use of how I do, because I often will also come back through this and put seriously strong black lines between everything again. Like I painted over a lot of the black. But knowing me, when I'm done with this piece, I'll probably come back and repaint the black. I've been known to do that because I love stained glass windows. I love the way stained glass windows look, and I like my art to look like them. It's just me.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do coloring books for each volume. So each volume is going to have 2 editions. So it'll have a full edition of my colors, my choices with the way I like it. And then there's going to have a second volume that if anyone out there wants to color the pages their own way, they can.
There you go. I wanted to mention, I have a friend of mine who raised her hand and said she would do flats for me for my comic, since I'm going to be, coloring it myself, but I don't want to. I definitely don't want to do the flats. I'm not that proficient.
Do what?
Do the flats. Essentially, you map out like her shirt here, and then I can go in and choose the color for it, or do specific things from that point. But like she'll map out every like different object on the page.
Oh, okay.
That's the flats. And then I'll go in and pick and choose colors and, set the mood and all that jazz.
Yeah.
So her name is Zoe Bones, and she'll be assisting me. And I mentioned her because she's extremely talented. She, like you were saying, like she coloring book. She wants to do her own coloring book, and I'm talking to her weekly, and like we're sort of coaches for each other, just to keep on track, accountability partners, as she says. And it's been really good so far. Like maybe talked 4 times already. I met her originally like back in, I think it was 2006. I went to San Diego Comic-Con, the only time I've been there. And me, her, and I think 3 or 4 other guys, shared a hotel room at a hotel like 10 blocks from, the convention. As opposed to like downstairs or across the street, or
right.
Like, because those hotel places get insane, the cost.
Oh yeah.
So we chose a hotel far away, and plus it was all of us in the same room, and it
Hey,
was
I've
still like
I've had
overpriced.
I've had I've had trips where even if as long as if one of us could even sleep in a closet, there was room in the room, you know?
Yeah,
Sorry.
but we reconnected recently, and we just like talking all the time now. It's like it's so good.
It's good.
And I'm really like I really love her work, and like she does different styles. She does more detailed. She does more like cartoony and funny.
Nice.
And yeah, I definitely see her work like within a coloring book, and yeah.
Well,
Um,
that was one of the reasons why. So this year, when I started doing this whole process, because the coloring book thing, it was suggested to me a few times, but I didn't really hear the suggestion until last year. Meaning that I probably disregarded people who said it before that for one reason or another. But so
right,
when it was said to me last year, I'm like, oh, okay, you know, that's a good idea. And so I sit down with my art. At that point, I had like 101 completed pieces of art, fine art over the years, whether it was on paper, on canvas, you name it. And I sit down with the idea of creating this coloring book from all my art, right? Well, I don't do pictures of my work at the time. This was then.
right,
I wouldn't take any kind of snapshot or scan or picture of anything in the course or during the process of creation. There was something I had never, well, one, I had never given it any reason or validity to need to do that. And then so that was most of it. But then, so I sit down to try to like conceive of this coloring book thing. And oh my God, it's Keith Harper. He's working fast. Is that acrylic stained glass aesthetic gives Doris art a very bold and iconic book. Aw.
yeah.
EJB, how,
EJB. He, he's a
yeah,
talented artist himself, and
thank you, EJB.
yeah,
The piece that Pops has is the actual finished piece of one of the pages in the haiku. And sure enough, even Christy Shin, when she saw it, that's what she said. She said it looks like stained glass, and I go, "Yep, that's basically the intent." So what I was going to say about your friend about maybe doing coloring books is that what I
right,
learned sitting down with my old art, like my photos of my older stuff. I didn't have any photos of anything without paint, without color, and what a pain in
right,
the it is an absolute train wreck trying to take color out of a picture
right,
to get it to a place or to a point where, so the only options, basically the two options is, and this is what I'm currently doing. I went out and I actually invested in a light board to actually trace my work. So some of it I'm going to be tracing to get the actual coloring book page. I'm going
right,
to have to trace it. Anything I do new, like what you're seeing me paint right now, this is a copy. This is not the original. I stopped painting my originals on paper, the ones on paper. Good, Mr. Salazar, how are you? If I'm doing Obviously, if I'm doing a canvas piece, I'm going to do everything on the canvas. Clearly, I'm
right,
not going to, but I did during this process of these haikus and this book I'm illustrating, I stopped painting the originals because of that. Because I'm like, you know what? I'm going to keep these, whatever, whether it's a sketched piece or an inked piece, whatever it is, I'm leaving those originals in their pure form without paint. That's just what I've chosen to do. So if she's going to do coloring books, that's my point. Long drawn out freaking story is have her make sure she's scanning or photographing her work without any color to
yeah,
use for what she's going to do in the coloring book, because it's a lot easier to get the lines, those nice crisp clean lines you want to have for the coloring book. That's what I'm doing right now. So right now, I've got all of the pictures scanned and photographed for the haiku coloring book. I just have to put the manuscript together, which is more. The only reason it's not done is because it's busy work that's boring.
So what Keith Harper asked, is that acrylic paint that you're using?
Oh, these are watercolors. Oh, I'm sorry.
Watercolors. Okay.
Yeah, these are watercolors. No, it's a good point. Well, it's a good question because these are watercolors, and I paint them so dark that I do get to ask that. Most people that work in watercolors, amazingly, and this is just what I've seen, they usually are pastel painters. I'm not a pastel painter, but I love watercolor. Watercolor is my favorite. I use them all. I've got acrylics. Oh my God, I have so many pieces that are done in acrylic where like I'll get to a certain point where the watercolors are great, but I want to embellish, or I want a darker color, or I want the paint to be thicker and not translucent at all. I will get the acrylics out for that because sometimes I can do a piece faster with acrylics because I don't have to use so many layers, or I don't have to use so much paint. Because watercolors, the depth of the color is going to have everything to do with your mixing as you go.
Right.
You
ever watch like Yellow Submarine, or like the crazy Beatles animated stuff? Like,
oh yeah.
That's what you're doing reminds me of that a bit.
Yeah. That's
trippy artwork,
Oh, that's cool. I love that. I love if someone's going to use the word trippy to describe my artwork, I feel like I've succeeded today. Are you working out? No, I'm using a palette. The little seam's very saturated. Yep. I used watercolor crayons. Oh yeah. I tried using the tube stuff. Can't stand it. I tried using the kind where I'm pre-mixing stuff. Can't stand it. I 100% know that it gets saturated and my paper gets crinkly, even though my paper is I use that. I can't remember what the weight is on my sketch paper, but this is actual sketch paper. It's not just regular paper. Because even when I make
sharing links,
checked out Dori's webtoons. Oh, that's so cool. Use watercolor crayons. Ooh, you know what I have used, Keith, and this is what I do love. One of the things I do love. I use watercolor pencils on canvas to pre-sketch my pieces because when I go to paint, because they're watercolor pencils, and once I start painting, they literally become liquefied and into the paint or into the canvas, and you cannot tell that I have sketched on the canvas first. You'd have to be a genius to really find the sketch in one of my paintings, but watercolor pencils are great for that. And crayons, I bet, would be great for that. If you wanted to do pieces on canvas, it's a nice way of getting your image down or image sketched, and then you can come back behind it and paint.
Yeah.
It depends on how much detail someone wants to have. Like your friend, I like a lot of detail in my paintings, and so that's one of the reasons why I will sketch them out first rather than just go to the canvas and paint. A lot of people do that. They'll just go to the canvas and they'll start painting. I've got a few pieces like that, but not many. Most of them are sketched out first before I start painting.
Right. So I'm thinking we can end this soon. Not this second, but
I'm going to take it as a compliment that you've been managed to, what do you call it, put up with me for 2 hours and haven't wanted to like run off.
No, you're cool. You're great.
You hung out with me for 2 hours, Peter, and you didn't want to leave.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
excited.
I mean, when we started, I was exhausted, but somehow I woke up during the stream.
I'm going to take credit for this. I feel like I'm a
Yeah.
dynamic person and I keep things lively. And yes, Keith, it is a good cheat. And you know, it's one of the other great cheats, and this is my favorite, and I don't mind sharing this. All of my artwork, whether it's a watercolor or one of my acrylics, like what you're looking at right now on paper, I will, when it's all said and done and it's dry, I will seal this with an acrylic gloss spray that I have, that I buy it just right at the little local, you know, True Value store. And what it does with watercolors like this is it takes the colors and it will literally turn them about 3 or 4 shades darker. And it takes this entire piece of this real matte kind of non-shine whatever. Hi, Gilbron. And it turns it into a shine, a sheen that makes you think that it was painted with oil, or it even, I've had people ask me if my paintings were oil, and I'm like, no. And it's all because of that spray. Because I'm not even going to lie. I'm not even going to try to sugarcoat it. I can't stand the idea of the artwork being ruined by water or ruined by something. So I started sealing the work. I just, you know, it's watercolors. If I were to wet this or accidentally get water on it, this would be ruined. But I kid you not, that spray I use, I could probably use it as a coaster. I could probably use one of my pieces of art as you know, one of these days I might actually make some. Ooh, you know what I'm gonna do? And I haven't done it yet. I have a piece of glass, but I haven't done it yet. I watched this woman's video. She's a painter here locally. I want to say she might be out of LA, but anyway, she paints on glass. And I was just dying. I was watching her work, and one of her, like, is one of those YouTube Gilbrand. It's Gilburb. It's, damn it. Oh, that's so cute. I don't know what they're talking about in chat, but that's adorable.
Well, his name is pronounced Gibran. Lots of people call him Gib. But yeah, we just make fun of his name.
I think I said Gibran.
Yeah. Wasn't exactly right, but Gibraltar Red Finger.
I'm gonna call you Gil. That's you know, it's funny. I get it, because my YouTube channel now my YouTube channel says Dori before Doris Jones Labors of Love. And I did that because I'd go on streams, or I'd be on a stream and I would make a comment, and because it didn't say Dori and it just said my business name, people would call me Doris. I'm not Doris. Okay, Doris is a professional legal kind of thing, or I'm in trouble. Or you're my man and I'm in trouble. Then maybe you can call me Doris. But otherwise, my name is Dori. Call me Dori. So I literally changed my entire channel name. I changed it because I got tired of people calling me Doris when they would comment on my comments. But you know, it's okay.
Yeah. You know. Keith says hard G Gib, as in Debbie Gibson.
Oh, that's funny.
But,
I was gonna say, it's like a GIF conversation, you know, where some people say GIF, some people say GIF.
People have been butchering his name since he's been around. Yeah.
Oh man.
It's the way it goes. It's, you know, hey,
yeah.
People only half read things, or they just don't pay full attention.
Right.
Yeah.
So the other, I think I was done with most of what I was going to say about that gloss spray to Keith. But the other thing I like about it is, if you do want to, if you want something, it's kind of like in layers. Okay, so now I couldn't have told you or articulated this, but I'm new to digital illustration. Okay, I've never worked in digital, but I did teach myself how to make multiple layers and what they mean, and I'm still playing with it. So I don't know a lot of it, but that spray is good if you want to do that on a canvas. So like, let's say you want to do a black outline of something or an outline of something, but you know you're going to come back later and paint, but you don't want that black to be messed with or go anywhere or altered or have your paint, move it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That acrylic gloss spray to set the black and then walk away and then come back and do your painting is a good way to make sure that black doesn't go anywhere. It's the similar idea of using layers on a digital image.
Yeah.
Exactly. There's your other tweet from Dori. The
You can throw her a tip later in her tip drawer.
I will be the first one to tell you. I will figure out a way to do art cheaper and faster and more lazy, but still have it look like fine art. Like, that's what I'm gonna do.
So Gibran does these crazy kooky videos. He has a YouTube channel, but he also is on Instagram, and they're freaking hysterical. It's like you have to go check them out.
Hairspray is not bad. Hairspray is good, but it's got to be the maximum, like ultra Aquanet kind that's going to make the environment die. To really work good enough. And I stopped using hairspray because I liked the gloss. Hairspray is not going to change the colors to be darker, deeper, or shiny. And I like the shiny, so that's why I use the gloss. But if you like a matte, like if you're a matte finish type of person, then hairspray's fine. There's a lot of people out there, right? What are you doing for your comic book?
What am I doing?
No, like are you going to do matte? Is it gloss? Because that matters to some people.
That's all to be figured out. Like you're talking about once it's printed, the quality of the paper and
your cover
finish of the paper, and I mean the cover is going to be shiny, but I think the interior should be matte. Although I'm far from making any final decisions. It's like I like a lot of different things. I'm going to get what looks best for this project. When it comes down to it. And I'm not thinking about that right now. Right now, it's about inking and starting to set up my files for flats, that sort of thing.
I can totally appreciate that because, like, I think I said this earlier. I couldn't even wrap my mind around doing a campaign with this book until I had one in front of me. Because, I just couldn't. Like, I had never done that before. I had never put my artwork in that kind of a way before. And so to even think about it going out there to other people was like, no. I'm like, why are you asking me this? I got to look at this first. I got to see this first, So I can totally relate to what you just said. 100%.
Yeah. I mean, besides the fact that I'm working on like 5 other projects and for other people. I'm trying to avoid their punishment because I'm running late on one or two things, and it's like
oh yeah.
So I'm just trying to keep sane and move forward and make progress on things and still be happy and eat and sleep and play with my cats and have a life and
do you go through these periods of time where you have to remind yourself to eat? Like that's an actual thing. Like you have to consciously say, don't. I have to do that.
There have been times. I mean, like I probably lately haven't eaten as much because I'm just hardcore working. But I could also lose a couple of pounds, so I don't really care. It's like when I
you're not
start
even
feeling
kidding.
faint, then yeah.
Oh my God, you just cracked me up. That was me at the beginning of the year when I first. So I get back into my creative process as the holidays are over with, and I start working on all the books I have, and I literally lost 24 pounds because I've published 3. I have self-published 3 books this year. Now, granted, I also went through grieving the death of a loved one. I had that happen. So between that and the poetry books that I've produced, the album that I produced, all that jazz, I literally lost 24 pounds because I was not eating. I was literally on like this roller coaster nonstop creating fest that I would look up and like, I can't remember the last time I drank my tea hot because I'll make an entire pot of tea. Salazar says Aquanet was the hairspray of our choice for women in my family. Used more than half a can to kill a roach once, and my mom got. See, if you're gonna use that to kill a roach, you've got to have a lighter and you've got to fire it, man.
Right? Yeah, that's
how you kill. You've got to turn it into a fire extinguisher. That's how you use the Aquanet to kill. Because so there's that. Like. Not drinking tea hot because it goes cold. Like I've had this cup sitting since we started. I won't like, I'll bury my head down, get into a painting or whatever. And like when I started live streaming like this on my own, I was like, I think my first time was maybe 20 minutes or so. And then it was like maybe 30 minutes or so. And then now like I can't seem to come on live to paint on any given day and get off in any time less than an hour and a half too. I think my longest live stream during a painting once was like 3 hours, and it didn't feel like 3 hours at all. It did not feel like I was online for 3 hours because I painted the whole time.
Yeah, you totally get into it, and you're just talking with friends, and you're hanging out and being creative, and time flies. So we got, of course, a bunch of comments going on, a bunch of people in the chat. This is great to see. Frank says, note to self, eat today. Keith says,
please make sure you hydrate. Pete, you are an Adonis. Aw. Jake says hi.
Jake showed up.
Mm-hmm. Right?
I was doing that recently, most of the day and night stuff, only eating once in a while. I almost fainted a couple of times, so I drink more water now. Yep, that helps.
Yep.
Keith says the flow.
I was going to say, there's got to be something to it. Like, I wonder if there's some kind of scientific study to the artist diet. Is that a thing? Like, is that even called a thing? The artist diet, where you're just literally like on a, creation fest and food's the last thing on your mind. I wouldn't even know what to do. It's kind of a good time for me to be single because even if I had someone in my life, I'd be like, yeah, bro, I got stuff to do.
Well,
I'd be like telling him like, yeah.
I think about that, like, it's like only a certain person, and it's been proven, can put up with me. It's like I'm a good-natured person. I'm kind, and I'll do 80% of everything that needs to be done. But when it comes to like, if I gotta get my shit done, I gotta get my shit done.
Until earlier this year, I could never have articulated this because I didn't even know it. But this year was the first year I had ever dated another fellow creative person. And it took, that was all it took for me to know that now I understand why my whole life I've dated like blue collar guys who did construction and plumbing and electricity. And the surfer was probably the only guy I can think of that was maybe a creative person from my past that I dated. But yeah, no offense to all of us artists here on this live stream feed, but I think I'm done. I date one creative person, and I already know. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to go back to the blue collar guys with the boots because we're fucking crazy. I can't date another me. I can't do it.
Yeah, it's a particular taste, and there's a lot of layers to it.
Right.
And it's like, it's not, it's not like I was searching for someone specific or not searching for someone specific, but I
Right?
haven't really dated creative people.
See,
Um,
me either. It
yeah,
came out of nowhere, and I don't search. I'm never on the prowl, so to speak. That's just not my nature. I have to be like almost hit up against the head for me to even know someone likes me.
somebody like my brother who met up with and they eventually got married, Amanda Connor. She's a
Yeah,
creative person. He's a creative person. They've made it work.
yeah,
It's and there's lots of couples that are do creative stuff together, but I think they they found a good balance. I visited them last year and stayed at their place when I was there a couple of days.
yeah.
And she was busier than he was, but they each have their own office, and and they
Well,
understand the other person's needs, and
have you seen these comments? I love this. And so Jake says, if we had the choice to do the Back to the Future Part 2 dinner method, artists could be 100% more concentrated on work. I might need more of an explanation of that. I have to think about what that means. When you think about Part 2 dinner method, do you know what he's talking about?
I'm trying to think of it right now. Like, I know the family had dinner together.
I was
I'm not
trying to
sure
think of
what
it.
specifically he means. Um,
Did someone throw up? Because I mean, that would be, that would
I
help.
think everybody was everybody watching their own TV or something, like
I
totally
don't
not
know.
into the other
And then
people at dinner
Keith Harper
table.
says flow states, the
Yeah.
flow. Oh, because is there an artist supplement? A shake in the morning and nothing else for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
And so Jake says I only want someone in the creative field. So I did date someone else that was in the creative field. And here's my take after my whole sum of 2 relationships with creative people after a lifetime of none. Okay. It only works if the guy doesn't try to compete with the partner. And I'm not going to say all men will do this. I can't speak to women because I don't date women, but I'm not about to compete with the man in my life. I'm not about to be made to feel like I'm going to need to compete with him. I'm not here to compete with you. I'm my own artist. I'm my own creator. I'm my own thing. doing my own thing. Don't put us in a competition where we're one upping each other, because that's just not going to work. It's just not going to work. I'm not impressed. I am not a fan. I'm a creator myself. I'm not going to run around and be your fan girl. I think some guys that I've met in the creative world are expecting me to be a fangirl. Does that make
I
sense?
think all guys need validation, so that's not just exclusively creators.
That's a good point. Yeah. There's no way. That's funny that you say that, because there's no way a guy I'm dating is gonna feel like he's not validated, because I'm old school, like way old school. I like I'm gonna probably piss off a feminist out there. I know exactly what I was made for and built for. I'm not here to be the alpha in a relationship, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah.
But if
Hey,
you're not too
talking
much to
more.
give myself these guys hot pockets, full size pizzas. My wife is a creative, but she's walking around in that with that judging eye. We're I'm just saying, we can barely keep up with the chat because our
Yeah.
conversation is our conversation has incited this chat we can't
I
keep up
know.
with.
You're not too much to handle, Frank. You're too hot to handle.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's pretty cool.
you can read Jake's comment if you wish.
What did Jake say? It's a creative penis measurement contest. PG goes, well, here's the thing. So get this. So I come into this world of you guys, and I'm not going to say you're all comic guys, but I had it in my head. I've never worked anywhere near comic books ever. And I come into this world talking about art because I'm an artist and you guys are an artist and I'm a writer and you guys are writers. And I'm like, okay, I can relate. And I had this naive perspective in some way that because it was comic books that I was going to be amongst a bunch of like guys that with no egos and they were going to be naive and they were, or not naive, but they were going to be, you know what? I had a picture of all these nerdy sweethearts. That's what I had a picture in my head. And I get into this world, and I'm not going to name names, but I had a few men already prove to me that, you know, I had to go back old school, you guys, and I had to put on the girl skin that I had when I did stand-up comedy with a bunch of male comics, because you want to talk about penis measuring, dick swinging, cock swagging. Oh my God. The male comics, they're fucking egos. Their ego walks into a room before they do. Yeah. And so to some degree, to keep navigating and mitigating relationships in this world, I had to put on that skin. I had to put on that thick skin that knew I was in a man's world. And it's okay. I would never
listen to. Sorry, have you listened to what is it? Whitney Cummings podcast?
I don't think so.
She's on YouTube, you know, and she interviews like, it seems like mostly comics. She's a comic herself. She's done TV show and producing and different things, and she's hilarious. But you know, like, yeah, her stories, you know,
that would be cool. Yeah, I tend to confuse people because my stand-up is the Amazon Beauty, and I talk a lot about relationships and dating and all that jazz. But personally, on a real personal level, I'm a docile, submissive woman who I use feminism when it matters to me. I'm not even gonna lie. Right. I will 100% take all of the benefits that it has come with in terms of being my own person and being independent and having a voice. But I would much rather be taken care of. I've only had to be alpha because life made me that way. It made me have to be. If I could choose my situation, I would be taken care of, birthing babies, sitting at home, cooking and keeping home. That would be me. Right. No lie.
But also creative.
But of course, yeah, I would, as long as my husband was keeping me in my paint supplies and canvases. Yeah, of course. Yes. Let's just don't take my paint away. I would probably turn into a crazy Xena like Amazon if someone was to tell me I couldn't create or do art. That would make me crazy. I would take up arms, I would.
So, everybody's just, comments are great. Thank you, everybody. Jake.
What is going on here? I look up and it's like, whoo, we got Hot Pockets, Xanax, or no, that's XOXO, sorry. Bunch of sweet nerds. Bunch of sweet nerds. I know, right? I thought you guys were just a bunch of sweet nerds. I love that. When I was in the military, it was kind of the same thing. The penis walking into the scene before the guy. Imagine the uproar with two beasts rolling in. Someone out there is going to draw that comic. I'm just saying. They're going to draw what Jake just wrote. The thing about the uproar with two beasts, my testosterone injections are kicking. I walked into a weird part of this conversation. Yes, you did. That's too funny. Well, earlier we were talking about, Peter, let's run down what we've talked about today. We talked about killing roaches with hairspray. We talked about using Contra to excuse our sexual behavior. What else have I talked about?
Making a coloring book. I mean, like, it was all about creative until a certain point when Yeah. All the people showed up.
I think our conversation got their attention when we started talking about dating creative people.
There you go. Yeah,
That's a
they
shit.
usually
Oh.
that makes them all nervous. I mean,
Puts you in panic. She's like, okay, so speaking of this, so funny, one of my stand-up jokes, I'm not sorry. I love you all. I long for the conversations of killing roaches. One of my stand-up jokes is about dating me, the creative, who is a poet as well as a comic, right? So my advice to a man who's dating me is to stay on my good side, because you'd rather be in one of my poems than one of my jokes. Because my stand-up comedy, oh man, I could go through my comedy and tell you what X it's about. Oh yeah, that's about so and so. Oh, that's about him. Oh yeah, that's about so and so. I got a name attached. I can attach a name to every stand-up joke there is for the most part.
And Dr. Moore knows. That's why old shoes had pointed toes. You can kill the roaches in the corners.
What is that saying that the only two things that are going to be here after a nuclear war are roaches and Twinkies?
And yeah.
Roaches and Twinkies. But I think Twinkies might not be here anymore, because now that they've changed the recipe, I don't think they're the same. I'm convinced.
Yeah, they won't survive.
They haven't tasted the same since the whole debacle, the whole Twinkie debacle, where they were just.
What's the zombie movie with Woody Harrelson?
Oh yeah, Zombieland. Yeah,
Zombieland. Yeah, with the Twinkies.
Yeah, with the Twinkies, and he's just trying to find a Twinkie. I know, it's crazy. Oh, what does he say? Dori, your comedy is like the song "You're So Vain." Oh yeah, I like one of my jokes says it goes like this. It goes, "Listen, you do you, boo. You're an asshole, but you do you." Real simple. Or my other one, this is the one that I got removed on Webtoons, where it says, "Hey, okay, I know what I said to you was I ended it with the word hun, but what I want, just so we're clear, what I want you to understand is that what I meant was fuck you." Because like it's kind of like a Southern woman saying "bless your heart." There's nothing good about that. She's not being nice to you. I don't know what Southern woman you think she is, but if a Southern woman says "bless your heart," she is basically saying "fuck you" or "you're an asshole" or something of that variation. She is not being nice. And I'm a Southern woman, so I know. I'm just saying, it's kind of like
my ex says a lot. Like,
does she?
Is it "bless your heart" or something along those lines? I forget now.
What? So here's my favorites. "Bless your heart." Aw. Like I go, aw.
Right.
Which is just never good. Or another one is, let me know how that works out for you. Like when someone tells me and I literally have, yeah, I'm like, oh yeah, okay. Let me know how that works out for you.
Yeah.
Which is basically like saying you're screwed. Keep coming back. I love saying keep coming back. That's my favorite. Like, yeah, keep coming back, bro. I have a running joke. "Bless your little heart." Wait, so when Dori calls me a sweetheart, no, you are a sweetheart. But now if I say something like, like you'll know, because we would have been having an argument, or we were having a conversation where like maybe we didn't agree. And the point I'm getting at is, let's say we're having a conversation like that and I end it with, "Hey, you know what? I'll talk to you later, hun." Right? Like I say hun at the end. That's what I mean by yeah, no. Wasn't there a box for $500 on eBay? A box of
Twinkies?
Yeah, wouldn't shock me because the Twinkies that they have now, which are not the Twinkies from before the whole company debacle thing where the company went under and stuff, they're not the same Twinkie. So who Lord knows, I don't know. All I know is they're not the same. I don't know what they're trying to pass off as Twinkies now, but they're just not the same.
No, they're sugary balls.
Yeah, probably.
Exactly. Okay, so we're gonna wrap this up soon.
Okay.
Right? I'm gonna play alpha here, and this is what we're gonna do.
They're like Coke. They took the crack out of them. Talk to you later, Attila the Hun. Yes, exactly. Hun. Exactly, Hun, like Attila the Hun. If I say Hun at the end, oh yeah, it's not good. That's not good. Or if I
all
go,
these words I think are good. Now I'm gonna question everything.
No, well, my other, I must say, the other one I think I use a lot that I probably should maybe not use so much is when I say to someone, all I wish is for your every happiness. If I'm wishing you every happiness, that's basically like me saying, hasta la vista. It's basically like you might as well just put Arnold's voice on me and put the hasta la vista in there, because I'm basically saying fuck off. Like, I'm done. I'm out. Peace out. And I have straight out said peace out. Now, it's really bad when I just say peace out because I can't take it anymore. Now, this is not a Dori original, and then I'll leave you go. I'll let you sign off after this. But
okay.
This is not a Dori original. But one of my other favorites is real simple. Listen, I am an actual living, breathing sweetheart. I am a kind, gentle sweetheart soul. But if I'm ever a bitch to you, trust me, you deserved it.
Usually, if somebody's being a bitch to me, that means, like there's feelings and caring in there.
Yep.
Because otherwise, like, they'd completely ignore me and just be on my way.
Exactly. This is very true. I mean, my irrationality or my voice, or even if I'm getting a tone with you, is better than my silence. If I go silent,
Right.
you might as well just start checking out other girls, because we're done. Like, I don't do silence, and I don't do the silent treatment. So if I just go silent, that basically means I have nothing more to say to you, really.
Yeah.
And then we're, yeah.
You hear that, Jake?
Yeah, Reese's Pieces out. Jake, I hope we follow each other wherever we are, because you cracking me up.
He's on Twitter. So
I have a feeling, I'm pretty sure we're friends on Twitter. I follow tons of people, and I wouldn't be shocked. But all I'm saying, Jake, is please forgive me for not knowing that you're as funny as you are, because we definitely could probably collaborate on a comedy strip. I swear, that's hysterical.
Dr. Moore knows you can only really hate someone that you love, because if you have no feelings for them, you wouldn't have any emotional attachments.
Yep. Thin line between love and hate, and that is true. That is very true.
Now I'm worried, because Keith says, I stand by my earlier statement of being an Adonis. Not sure what he means by that.
Well, I don't know. I mean, like, I did some creeping. I've seen pictures of Pete. He's a good looking guy.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. I appropriately speak on all men. I do it at least once.
At least once.
At least once. We have to know. I mean, we just have to check.
Well, you're a cutie yourself. I first saw you on I guess it was Global Frequency, during the
that I was
karaoke.
Singing,
during
yes.
the karaoke.
Oh my God.
That was very cute, and you were very cute.
Thank you.
So if I don't have your links below, I forget, because I've been rushing through this. Yeah, rushing through the week. So if I don't, you could we could check it after, and I'll include any links that you know
I'm
consider
fairly certain that
important.
you had. When I looked at it, I'm pretty sure my link tree was there, and if that's
Oh,
there,
okay,
then
that's
I'm
right.
pretty. Oh yeah, if they
Yeah,
can find my, if they have my link tree, they literally will have everything there is to find me, because I am
yeah,
really good. I'm really good at updating that. Um, and yeah, so they
yeah.
shouldn't have any. And if you
Your
Google
link tree
Doris
is
Jones,
crazy.
I know, I know. I'm not gonna lie. I know this. If you trust me, I'm not trying to show off, you guys. I just am an easily bored person. Okay, it's not that I think I'm special, that I have all these artistic, creative, whatevers. I just get bored easily. Okay. So anyway, when you Google Doris Jones Labors of Love, I'm like the first 3 pages of Google because of all the crap. Like, it's affiliated and associated with everything: the comedy,
Yeah,
the poetry, the books, the everything. Yeah, it's all there.
yeah. So Jake is also a moderator here, so he's shared your link
Oh,
tree
thanks, Ray.
in the chat.
Very
Yeah,
sweet. And I want everyone who's watching to hear me say this to Peter. I appreciate you so much, because you're one of the few, despite what I said earlier about the egos and the males in this world, you're one of the few that's a truly humble man, and he follows up that humility with a true, genuine desire to help and encourage and support other creators, especially the
no,
newbies like me who know nothing about the comic industry. But, because that's the thing, like, some people in this, and I'm not going to say any names, but some people in the comic book world was like, oh, you're not a comic book artist, you're not an artist. And that's just that may be in my head. Nobody actually said those words. um
right.
but trust me, luckily, when it comes to my art, I definitely know I don't give two fucks what people say about my art. My art is what it is. It took me a long time to get comfortable with what I do, the way I do it, and not
Yeah,
have to explain it. But still, I love how you approach your show and having people on and encouraging others to support each other, because we need more of that. We need more of you, Peter.
oh, thank you.
You're very
Yeah,
welcome.
I try. Regardless of where I am on the scale of things, to other people or whatever, but I always try to, get the word out about people I'm interested in and people I follow and people whose work I like, you know. And
Oh,
if my slightly bigger channel gets your channel more views, then all the better.
yay, thank you. Did you read um what it's Jake says? Dory, I don't know what Fantagraphics is, but Jake says, Dory, in a few years Fantagraphics will be hammering on the door begging to publish.
It's a indie publisher, very very quirky. You'd fit right in.
Quirky is definitely a quirky, eccentric, enigma. I've been called a lot of things, mostly nice, actually, mostly nice. Every once in a while, someone will bring out the C word, but otherwise, it's usually all nice. It's usually good things.
Cats. Yeah.
The C.
Salazar, we need
What
more
so?
Palmiottis. Talking more. She
Yeah.
says, I agree with the statement. All the Palmiottis. And as I said at the top of the show, all the Palmiottis were on YouTube tonight.
That's so cool. I'm gonna have to go
Both
check out
me
the.
and Jimmy.
I know. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go check out the brothers, and then and I'm so excited that I'm getting into your world when you're on your first issue and you're doing the work and stuff for it, because I don't know about you, but like, I've had at least 1 or 2 people already tell me they're gonna want the book, the haiku book, because they watched me paint some of those live when I was doing them. And just knowing that, like, what you're doing with your comic book and doing those sheets that you're doing, I know I'm gonna want it. I'm gonna definitely want it, and
Cool.
I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of artists are starting to do live feeds showing them doing their work and the creative process of their work. Like this book I'm doing, I'm almost positive everything I've done for this book has a live feed. There might be a few C word chill.
Everybody's putting their C words.
They're going through the alphabet of the C words. Which I'm not going to say the C word. I don't have any issues with it, but it actually technically originally was created. Originally, it had spiritual connotations that were meant to be in reverence to a woman. It was never intended way back when, centuries ago. It was not a word used the way it is today. Society made it the dirty word that it is.
Yeah, I mean, you could choose not to use it as a bad word and use it as a good word or whatever.
Oh yeah, if I go to Scotland, I'm definitely using
it. Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm not gonna do Irish accent.
Do you do impersonations?
I do, but it's like I'm just tired, and
it's like we've been at this for 2.5 hours, and he's like, "You're 3, and you're 3 hours ahead of me, which means that it's way late there."
Yeah, it's close to midnight.
Oh my God, Peter, you're so sweet. I appreciate you so much.
My pleasure.
Right, pleasure. I will sit here and paint in silence while you sign us off. Okay.
Okay. Thank you, everybody who's come to watch and join the chat and ask questions and drop their insights and added to the madness. Appreciate you one and all. Give this video a like. Subscribe to the channel if you have not. Become a patron to support the channel in bigger and better ways. And let's see. Then my next show will be Friday, so I'm kind of taking the next 2 days off to sort of catch up on business and work and whatnot. But I'll be back here Friday with the creator of Black Alpha, Tom Wrench. His name is very tricky to pronounce, but it's close enough. But it's a phenomenal piece of work. I've been following it for years, and he's finally kickstarting it, and he's going to talk all about it and show off some artwork. And I'm sure if you like, Star Trek and Space Ghosts and superheroes, and it's a very cool looking project. So I'll be back then, and I do have Global Frequency coming next Thursday. I believe I'm booking them for 1 in the afternoon, so we'll be able to spend a lot of time with them without falling asleep or passing out. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. But yeah, thank you so much, Dori, for coming on tonight. They're talking about a fraction of what you're up to.
That's a good way to put it. Are you doing that Saturday morning thing again? Do you normally do that thing where you have everybody just kind of
pimp your comic? That I mean,
was that a special thing?
I haven't done that in a while, and that was I just wanted to do one, and I was kind of thinking maybe I'll do the next one next month. It's already the end of the month anyway.
I'm just curious. Want to come on
for it? You want to be my co-host for it?
If you're gonna be doing it on Saturday, I do that anyway on Saturday mornings. I don't go live normally. I usually just, I think I mentioned to you, I have a friend who she does a radio show on Saturdays on whatever. Yeah. So that's all I was asking for. I have, I have nothing else to do. That's where I'll be doing painting anyway, is my point. So if you're doing it and you want, I'll
Frank definitely wants to be on. I know, Frank. Yeah. I heard you the last time. I'm definitely having you on. I just have a list of 24 people currently. I'm not sure when, because I've been pushing too hard, and I really need to not do that this weekend. I might be streaming though, but I'm not sure what time either. So if it works out, it works out. If you're around,
Oh
you're
no,
around.
yeah. I
Um,
have the notification on. It'll ding me if you're live. Don't trust me. I'll know. Hey, even if I just
Dr.
hang out
Moore
and chat.
says, yeah, Dr. Moore says it's reserved for cartoons.
I know, right? I haven't watched Saturday morning cartoons and I don't even know how long.
And he says, don't push yourself too hard. I wish I had a choice. I worked myself into a corner. Um, so it goes. So it goes. Darkwing Duck, Looney Tunes, excellent.
You will
Um,
do just fine. Take a deep breath, double down,
yeah,
and you'll be fine. Knock it out.
yeah. No, I mean, things are going good and picking up, and it is the end of the month, and bills are popping up.
Oh, I know
So
that.
I gotta double down to take care of all that. But I think next month is going to be really, really good. I'll be starting on 2 new books, 2 things that would be paying me as opposed to some things I'm working on that aren't paying me. So because of
That's a,
long stories and complicated events, but
yeah. Oh, I hear you, man. It's like if it's not my day job, my kids, or this, I'm probably not going to give much attention to it.
yeah.
Whatever it is or who it is.
Oh, Dr. Moore, you better stream. And you're
Drinking
welcome to
artist
come on.
shape.
You're welcome to come on and stream with me anytime. Just buzz me.
Oh yeah,
Um,
and that goes for anyone here. You, Peter, anyone here. You see me live on streaming painting because I try to go on every day. Clearly,
right.
I've done my quota for today. Clearly, yeah. I mean, I may not always put the link in my thing, but fuck, hit me up in comments. I'll totally. I've had Mike come in a few times for sure. I like
Yeah.
the company. I love having the company.
Cool.
And what better way
Sounds.
to make use of my StreamYard than to let other people come in and hang out.
No, definitely, definitely. Hey, Peter support.
Right?
I saw you earlier today, Dory, but I couldn't stay.
Doris, you too.
Dory's you too.
Oh, when I
Drink
was
the ink
watching,
water,
probably
Peter.
when
It
I was
will invigorate you. I'm just reading how
probably
it
when I was opening. I opened my La Premiere Tome live this morning during break. I that's
Oh,
probably
did
the way.
you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I waited until I had it in my hands, and then I got Pops to come on because he's the one that gave me the idea to do illustrated haikus, and so he came on my stream so I could open it live with him. So that was cool.
The answer, Dr. Moore, is yes, you can. You can share through your
Yes.
webcam. You can share what's on your screen.
Mm-hmm.
You could tap into your neighbor's TV and share that. No.
You can share a file from your computer. The only I know, like, it doesn't like sharing. Like when you share something, you can share something from a folder on your computer, but you can
Yeah.
share a web browser, like a YouTube browser or something like that. All right.
Yeah.
Oh,
All right. Thank you, everybody, so
I thought
much. And thank you, Dory. This has
Thank you
been
again for
fun.
having me. Thank you so much again for having me.
My
Wow.
pleasure. And
We
we'll
almost
get
did 3 hours. Holy crap.
yeah, we'll get deep art conversations again. Continued part 2 next time. Might be your channel, might be mine. Who knows?
I was trying to show everyone the piece because I'm done, but
Okay.
I have to paint the window, but I had it upside down there for.
I don't know how to switch.
To solo layout next to, like, above my name. I think there's a little thing where you click solo layout. Like if you hover, it's at the top left of my tile.
Oh.
It's down at the bottom where there you go.
Oh
Yeah.
okay.
So I'm gonna put some pink here in behind that. Otherwise, it's pretty much done. The only thing I will do is like I said before, I'm gonna come back in here and I'm gonna put back some of the black that separated the images and colors. But yeah, there you go.
That sounds right. Pete hogging the stream.
Pete hogging the stream. Show me. Oh yeah, that's
and
so rad. Okay,
it's now I'm hogging. So this is.
I love that. Okay, at the bottom in the bottom panel, is that how'd you do the black in the background? Is that a splatter of ink?
No, these are trees, and that's all precise forms. Damn. So, I mean, I could show you really, like, I'll just do that, and you can see.
That's fucking incredible.
Yeah.
Sorry, I try not to cuss, Peter. I tell myself not to cuss, but I'm a sailor's daughter.
Fine.
My dad was an
I won't even get into like women cursing turns me on or anything. I won't even get into that. But
Oh really? Wait! I'm so glad I'm not on camera to blush right now. I'm just gonna go back to painting and try to hide the big grin on my face. That's adorable. Okay.
All right, everybody. Great night.
I will end the stream on that note.
Yes.
He blew through a straw.